Order.
Maybe a little, talk a little bit.
A little
slower.
louder. We're going to call the meeting to order. Okay. Can I get a motion to allow Paul to participate remotely? Eden? In a second, Paul. I mean, Phil.
And then you want to ask for the vote.
We get the vote.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Re-
opposed?
Madam Chairman, does she have her mic on?
It is, but it's not close enough, or I'm not close enough to it. Better? Okay.
All right. Paul, you can participate.
So approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes. Okay. Any corrections? Can I get a second? Okay. Got Rob. And then
And ask if there's any corrections or additions, and if there aren't any, you can ask for all those in favor to say aye.
any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, can we, is it all those in favor? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And you ask if there's anybody opposed.
Anyone opposed?
Right.
Seeing none, we can move.
Motion carries. Cool. All right. So next up, Madam Chair, are your informational items. First up is ETSB, and they've got a resolution later on the agenda, but I know Mr. Tuttle is on the line, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Tuttle to see if he has any update other than the resolution.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Right. Next up would be the Public Defender's Report. I know that's in the packet, Madam Chair, and I think I see Kristen in the background, and I'm pretty sure that means Nate's in court.
Correct.
Kristen, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add, no. But I
Okay.
can answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Right. Next up, Madam Chair, is your first resolution. It's the bid award for the juvenile and adult detainee mental and medical health care services. That's for the jail and the JDC. If you want to entertain a motion in a second to get it on the floor, and then we can walk through the details of the item for you.
I think I see Sharon made the motion. Can I get a second? Kate, not Kate.
All right.
Eden?
Madam Chair, Mr. Bruner is going to speak to this, and I know Brian Brown from the JDC is also here in case there's any questions related to the JDC component of it.
Thank you. So this contract, we've had medical services extended at least a year. Has it been 2 years? At least two. Due to COVID out at the jail, we finally had the opportunity this year to get any RFP out on the street to bid the services. We had 44 vendors downloaded the documents, 2 attended a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on August 4th, and then we had received 2 proposals on September 1st. We had responses from WellPath, which is our current vendor, and then ACH, which is American, help me out, Chief. Correctional, yes, health, thank you. We asked for 2 proposals. One was based on minimum staffing levels, and the other was alternate based on what each vendor would recommend. For the jail, ACH's recommended was even less than well past minimum, so for the jail, we're recommending that option be accepted and enter a contract with, and then I'll let Brian speak to the JDC piece.
Good afternoon. Yes, Randy has said we broke the RFP down to get individual bids, one for the jail, one for JDC. Advanced Correctional came in the lowest responsible bidder at 418. So, and that was for the recommended of the requirements. Is it not working?
You have to talk directly into it, Brian.
Is it working now? So, sorry, I'll repeat myself. We broke the RFP down to get bids for JDC and the jail, just to see the comparisons. Advanced Correctional was also the lowest bidder for the Juvenile Detention Center services at 418. Be happy to answer any questions.
Sharon?
Do we have any experience working with this company? Do you require them to give references or?
There's references in the RFP. We used to contract with ACH. The detention center we had it prior to, well, now what we call WellPath, after they consolidated a couple times, but.
Brian?
Well, I know the owner, and I think the daughter-in-law is running it now, or I think it's actually his daughter. I've known them for years, and they've done a really good job in the past, many years, and somehow they lost the bid, because of maybe not being the lowest responsible bid the last few years, and so I'm glad that. I was going to say I'm glad that local people have gotten the bid, but the problem is they moved their company and all their families moved to Tennessee, so they're not local anymore. But anyway, I wish them well, and they are really good people.
Any other questions?
Could I just add one thing, please? In our FY22 request, I'd requested $375,000. If this is approved, we get to negotiate, but it's looking like it's going to be higher than that. So we'd probably have to come back and request a budget amendment for that line item because it's 418. So.
Did you say 375 or 275?
I budgeted 375.
Oh, so it's
Yes.
about 30.
Currently, it's 332.
Yeah.
We went up 13-14%. We thought that would
So
be
it's
enough.
about 30,000, 35,000 over. So healthcare is not cheap anymore.
No.
Questions, you can call for the vote and ask for all those in favor.
Okay, if there are no more questions,
All those in favor say aye.
all those in favor say aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
All those opposed. All those opposed say no.
All those opposed say no. Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Next, Madam Chair, is the intergovernmental agreement between Peoria and Stark counties for the creation of a joint emergency telephone system board. If you want to get a motion and a second on the floor, Mr. Tuttle will be able to speak to it.
Can I get
So
a motion?
move.
Okay, we got Eden and Phil.
Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you for allowing me to join remotely today. Since 2012, the state of Illinois has been working with Stark County and other counties that did not have 911 service in an attempt to find a home for them because they were not able to have a standalone system under the state of Illinois, the law that was passed in 2012. So after much review, they came back to us again in the spring of this year and asked us if we would reconsider allowing Stark County to join and become a joint emergency telephone system board with Peoria County. We believe that we're in a position at this particular time to make that happen. And what this will end up doing is it will allow Peoria and Stark County to work together, use our expertise and experience to install and maintain a 911 system for the citizens of Stark County. We believe that they have the continued revenue to be able to to make that happen on a yearly basis, and the state of Illinois will provide the initial capital in order to provide the equipment to make that happen. So there's two items before you, the ordinance and then, of course, the interagency, the intergovernmental agreement.
Are there any questions? Eden?
I had a question for Dave. Why can't Stark County create their own ETSB? Is there a law against it?
They attempted to pass a referendum 2, if not 3 times back in the early and mid 90s. They were not successful because the surcharge would have to have been so high to be able to do it. And when the law was redone and all of the 911 stuff went under the Illinois State Police, and there was a uniform $1.50 surcharge that the state imposed, in that legislation, no new emergency telephone system boards could be created. They had to, if they were not in existence, which Stark was not, they had to join with an existing emergency telephone system board. So that's why they are prevented from having their own.
Any other questions? Phil?
I'll just comment that I think it's good that you're doing this and helping these people and so forth. It was unbelievable when I read this. It said they are the last county in our state. Now, we've got 102 counties. They're the last one. I just couldn't believe that. 10 years. It went into effect, you said, in 2012. That's nearly 10 years. Now,
yes, and we believe that we should be able to bring them totally in line sometime in early 2023. So the grant for the capital equipment would be hopefully granted sometime in May of next year, and then we should be able to begin construction and implementation in the summer and fall of next year. And hopefully by spring, summer of 2023, they would, quote unquote, enjoy the same level of 911 service that Peoria County does today.
thank you.
Rob?
Thank you. I have a question. That Stark should have the revenues to support this in the future. If they don't have the revenues, would that fall under compliant withdrawal for the dissolution of the agreement so that Peoria County isn't paying for Stark County's 911 system?
Yes, I mean there is an out clause that was put in there that if for some reason something should not work out as we believe, there is a portion in the agreement that allows for the agreement to be dissolved by the parties. The state has figured that they will bring in about $102,000 a year in revenue, and one of the items that we will have to ensure is that any contracts that we enter into to provide them with services, that we stay well under that $102,000, because not only will we need to pay for any reoccurring charges, we'll also have to make sure that there's money potentially available for updates, as computers and systems change down the road.
I guess could I just follow up with Jenny? Within the agreement, it says that for the dissolution, withdrawal must be in compliance with all applicable rules required by Illinois law. Does that include being able to fund their portion?
Give me one sec. What page were you on, Rob?
And Scott, I was not able to hear the second part of the question.
It is page, I just lost it.
I found it. So withdraw being in compliance with applicable rules or requirements, that would be the actual process of withdrawing and dissolving the joint ETSB. That's what it's not referencing the reason that you have a valid reason to dissolve. The parties can agree or unilaterally decide to withdraw and break up the joint ETSB. It's just then we'd have to follow the statute on dissolving and withdrawing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
I just wanted to share that, I have a lot of relatives in Stark County. We farm up there, and I know a lot of people. But just to give you an idea, I think they have 5 or 6 small towns and lots of good farmland, but their tax base is just really, really low. I mean, they don't have big businesses, like we have, like with Caterpillar and the hospitals and the whole city of Peoria and many other businesses. So it's not our job to look out for everybody else, that's for sure. But if there's an opportunity there to help them, and it's not going to cost us anything, I think this is a good idea. And I was just going to ask Scott. I think he probably knows that their total budget probably isn't over $5 million, is it, Scott?
If that.
I think
Mr.
it's like
Alfonso.
$2 million for the whole year for the county, something like that. So.
Correct. Yeah, it's a pretty minimal budget. It's obviously population and land area wise one of the smaller counties in the state.
Are there any more questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, the ayes carry. Are we gonna miscellaneous?
Madam Chair, I let the committee members go first, but I do have one before you adjourn, if so.
Seeing none, go ahead, Scott.
All right. Committee members, I want to apologize. We inadvertently left off a resolution from the circuit clerk that should have been on today's agenda. Obviously, because it isn't, you can't vote on it. But at a very high level, changes to the Criminal and Traffic Assessment Act earlier this year realigned and redistributed the revenues that the circuit clerk collects in his various special revenue funds. And he's got 4 special revenue funds. What that means is that one of his funds has experienced a 30% decline from the previous year in revenues, but that also means that's really kind of shifted to some of those other funds. And so the resolution is a request to basically move some of those appropriation of expenditures around to reflect where the revenues are now being deposited based on the changes in the act. If you combine the 4 altogether, no change in total appropriation, just moving it to better reflect where the revenues are now being collected. It's a total of $400,000, $200,000 into Fund 207, $100,000 each into Fund 307 and 407. We'll be happy to provide that to you electronically, and I would respectfully ask either a poll vote or a special committee meeting before the November County Board meeting so that this could get to the November board meeting agenda. And just quickly ask the circuit clerk or his team, did I leave anything out?
So this budget appropriation is a net zero. It's just moving money from one fund to another. Legislative changes changed the distribution into each one of these funds as far as the revenue side. We did make changes to our budget for 2022 so that we don't have to do this again. We just weren't expecting such a large decline in revenue in a couple of those funds.
So, happy to answer any questions. What's the committee's pleasure on how we move it forward?
Brian?
Well, you've explained everything very thoroughly, so I don't see any reason why we couldn't have a poll vote, but that's up to the other members.
Okay, we can do a poll vote.
All right. We'll go ahead and get that poll voted here before the board meeting so that it can get to the agenda on the November board meeting. Thank you.
Is that all for miscellaneous? All right.
Meeting adjourned.
We are adjourned.